Hey, welcome to another episode of Hawk Talk today. I'm sitting here with Principal and Superintendent Darren Siemens. Today we're going to talk about a school board meeting, what happened at the most recent one on August 28th, but also some additional details that we'll get into. But Darren, first, thanks for coming in and talking with us today. How did the last school board meeting go? It was kind of the first one of the year, right?
Yep, first one after the start of the year, of course. Throughout the summer, we still meet on a monthly basis and committees as needed. So, it isn't like we go 3 months without seeing each other as a school board and schools. So, but it's a little different when school started. So it was nice to get that taken care of.
Yep, absolutely. Well, here, why don't we just kind of get right into the orders here? So obviously, you have your approval minutes and all that stuff, and you have your consideration of bills, which is August school board bills and July manual checks. That's just the obvious, the usual, the norm. Financial reports, which are, very normal, just the report of what happened for May, June, July, any July activities, and then, void checks 1 year or older, not cashed. Any details you want to quick throw in about?
I guess because it's August, you got to remind people the fiscal year for the school ends in the month of June, right?
Yep.
So it's July 1 till the end of June.
Yep.
So when we're coming in here in August, realistically, there's not a lot of the budget that's been spent, right? We have a budget hearing coming up, and it's kind of like, well, hold on, the budget hasn't even necessarily been totally approved yet. But business goes on as usual. So it's nice to see you come in. It's a chance where you start off with that New Year's budget where everything is pretty much at zero.
Yep.
So you're able to see kind of what's going on. It's interesting. We ordered some textbooks and stuff in July. Those prices were a lot more than what were anticipated when we first put that number into the budget. So we already have some things that we have to change before we have this final budget hearing in September. Not a lot that's going to upset the apple cart or change anybody's taxes or anything like that.
But some adjustments.
Yeah, some adjustments for in-house, because I don't like starting the year saying, okay, we budgeted $6,000 for textbooks, but we spent $9,000. Yeah. Let's make that correction right away. That way it isn't dogging us throughout the rest of the year. That way we don't have to make that amendment in June.
After the fact.
To get things taken care of. But otherwise, no, business as usual. And just the finances rolling forward that way. So
okay. So that leads us into our miscellaneous business section, which starts off with the superintendent and secondary principal report. What do we know? Yeah,
so there's a lot of things going on. I'll just kind of touch on a few things. The budget committee has been looking at the budget that Mrs. Ebert and myself and Mr. Erickson have put together as administration and business manager. So we met, we whittled down some things to get it underneath where we were expected revenues to be. Yep. So we did make some cuts in our technology budget a little bit, and we did cut some money, about $20,000 out of professional development to try to bring that back in line. So that way we weren't over there. So that group met, and that was in July. Like I just said, though, we do have to make some changes because of some of those textbook things. We had our open house. I felt that it was really good. It seemed like it was a very busy morning.
Very.
Something to consider, I think we might do like an open house in the future that is more elementary on this day and then junior high school the next, just for the simple fact that the district secretary's office gets really busy and overrun, which is good because people are here paying lunch bills.
Yep, they're doing what they should.
Yeah, exactly. But it gets just stacked. So we're going to look at some ways to try to maybe circumnavigate that or make that a little bit more enjoyable experience in the future. But otherwise, what a great turnout for that. Transportation committee met over July and August. Actually, we moved forward with purchasing a couple backup buses that we got for a nice price.
Oh, wow.
So we added a 2004 International that we bought from Henry Miller's fleet out there that he was wanting to get rid of. So actually, as we speak right now, it's out at Laffer Vermeer getting checked out by the boys, and we'll get that thing ready to rock and roll. And then we picked up a 14-passenger from down in Hurley, South Dakota.
So where's that located?
So like southwest of Sioux Falls.
Oh boy! Okay.
We were able to Les Whelan and his wife were nice enough to run down there for us and pick it up, brought it back, and it's been looked at by backyard mechanics, and those guys have ran it through all the tests and made sure she's ready to rock and roll. And it'll be nice to have that 14-passenger because it's you do not need a CDL to drive a 14-passenger bus.
Yes, that's huge.
Yeah. So anyone that's been in the CDL world, you know that's changed the last couple of years with the feds. It makes it a little more difficult now to get a CDL. It's not impossible, but a little more difficult. Just a quick plug. Anyone out there that would like to make a little extra money, we're always looking for bus drivers, right?
Yep.
And the CDL, if you got questions, don't be afraid to come in. We'll help you with that process. So,
Absolutely.
so we added those. Parent-teacher conferences are coming up on September 26th. There's going to be some more information coming out. Mr. Erickson was in a meeting with a group that's going to be bringing in a presenter this morning. So we're going to share that probably in a different podcast just so this thing doesn't get crazy. But again, remember, parents' conferences are on the 26th. There will be an FBLA kind of free will. It's a free will supper that night with proceeds to go to support our FBLA group.
Yeah.
So, other than that, just kind of looking at my notes a little bit, nothing really huge. Really kind of the last big thing that we're excited about and should be completed September 18th and 19th is, and I'm calling it the Strand Project.
Okay.
You know, and you've been instrumental in helping with this. So we're looking at the install of our new scores table.
Yeah.
And what do we want to call it? Monitor? What is that? 5 foot by 11 foot?
Yeah, you could call it a monitor screen.
Flat panel that'll go up where the flag is currently. We're going to put it up there because we'll be able to use graphics for the flag during national anthem and things like that.
Yep. So the flag will still be seen and shown when we're doing that at every game. So we have a backup plan, and in an exciting way, we might be able to make that even better than what it is. You know. And that's a really exciting project. You know, you guys are going to have a lot of opportunities for not only training, presentations, watching video, like really exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. We want to thank Carrie and Trevor Strand for doing that. They've been trying to work on a project that was similar to this in different ways over like the last 4 to 5 years. And we were able to finally get something figured out that would work. And give us the most bang for the buck with the donation and stuff that was coming in. So again, we thank Trevor and Carrie Strand for that,
and really quick
everyone
note
that's
on
helped
that.
Supported them.
Generally, how big, so people understand like why this is such a big deal and why it's exciting. Like, what's the size are we looking at for this screen? This isn't just like a 75-inch TV screen. Like, what are
the big
we
one?
Yeah,
well, it's 5 foot by 11 foot. I mean,
huge.
5 foot by 11 foot.
It's very big.
Do the math.
So it's gonna be very, very big. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why we're so excited. It's going to be such a help.
It's gonna change the feel in there, and it'll be able to be used for more than just your basketball and volleyball. I mean, we'll be able to use it during wrestling. We'll be able to use it for, like you said, presentations. We'll be able to use that screen during graduation. I mean, there's so many different things that we're going to be able to do with that. And again, the scores table, you know. The ability to be able to have that and have player introductions on there, and have the opportunity for businesses to do some advertising on there and get their name out, do replays, keep the score on there. It's just going to elevate the feel of everything we're doing in that gym. Yep. So it's pretty awesome. We're excited about that.
Very much so.
So that's kind of really all I had. Just picking on a few high points of my report. So
okay, so then that moves us to the elementary principal report. Any notes from Mr. Erickson at all?
A few things. And Mr. Erickson had hospital meetings the same night as this because we did push this back a week. So he was not able to be there in person. But you know, with his report, again, he touched on the open house. You know, very very good numbers down there. K6 enrollments at 165. So it's up from last year. Last year was up from the year before that. Really? So, I mean, we're seeing a little bit of growth across the building. So that's nice to see. You know, and then one of the other things is he touched on the Amira reading program. Yep. You know, you've been involved in that too?
Yes, I have.
Bit, right?
Yes, I have.
So I'll let you kind of maybe, what are your thoughts on the Amira reading program? So
as far as the Amira reading program, one of the things, you know, the first thing you need to know is basically what it is. It's a individualized reading assessment tool, essentially. And what it does is a person will sit down and they can read a few passages on a screen, and it takes the microphone feed. Basically, you'll talk into a microphone, read it out loud. It'll take that feed and then judge the accuracy of how well you're reading and give you instantaneous feedback, scores, plans, goals, all of that. And it's a fantastic resources for students who may be struggling with reading or who are getting started. It's a new thing that's been going throughout the state, if I'm correct. That's been kind of a new push.
Yep.
And we kind of implemented it roughly at the end of last year as a bit of a pilot program, and now we're going full board. And it's a really good intervention tool as well, finding students who are struggling. And what's great about it is it gives the student that individualized feedback instantaneously. Unfortunately, with smaller schools, we don't have probably the staff that we would like to have as far as numbers and all that stuff. That's kind of the case everywhere. And this is a tool that leverages that problem and helps fix that a little bit.
Yeah, and I like how you said leverage. It doesn't take the place of.
Yep, it just
this helps. It helps us have another tool to look at in the toolbox and say, hey, while I'm reading with this group over here of 2-3 students, or maybe while I'm working with this student individually on vowel sounds and things of that nature, what have you, you're also able to keep the kids involved in a similar task that's going to give you feedback so you can impact this instruction.
Absolutely.
And whatnot. So, and as we know at a young age, that's where you get your reading skills. That's where you get that. And no matter what interests you have in life, the ability to read is something that we really need to have.
Well, it impacts you massively in so many different areas. So really exciting tool to have.
You bet. So that was included in Mr. Erickson's report. That's one thing that we're going to see more of this year, like you mentioned, our second year here with that Amira process. So
fantastic. Any other notes from the elementary principal report at all?
No, not necessarily. Not a lot there. Okay. Again, and that's how it is. It's the beginning of the year, right? We're just getting rocking and rolling. He does have some stuff he's working on in the kitchen. The kitchen in the lunch program is underneath of Mr. Erickson's hat. Does a great job up there, changing some things on some job descriptions and what he's asking of that staff to do, and they've met it very well. So looking forward to what they're able to accomplish this year and continuing with that. It's a good lunch program. It's one of those things. I remember being a kid, right? I mean, you're always. Sometimes you could sit there and you could eat 2 whole pizzas and still be hungry. Yeah. And I get it, right? We have growing boys and whatnot. But again, they do a good job of staying within the parameters that the state and the federal government sets up for the lunch program. And it is both, because we're getting state funding and we're getting federal funding. So there's a lot of hoops that they got to jump through.
A lot of hoops, yeah.
And they do a good job of providing a good quality meal with staying within those parameters, so we don't find ourselves on the hot seat for anything. So,
exactly. Yeah, basically trying to keep all areas happy. Absolutely.
You bet.
So that kind of wraps up the elementary principal report. Let's look at the athletic director report. Any news from that?
You bet. So Mr. Kohler went through, we talked about football a little bit. Of course, at the time of this meeting, we were coming up on our game, after our first game there. So now we got 2 games under our belt. Yep. At the high school level. The junior high JV have been playing. Numbers are looking good for football on all levels right now. Volleyball, again, numbers are at 32, the way it looks from his report there. I know they've had a couple games since this board meeting, and of course even just this last night, right?
Yep.
So they're in full swing. We got cross country going out. Right now we have one athlete that I believe that's doing that at the high school level, and they're doing a great job there. We want to thank them for their effort. We've got some girls doing golf. Right now is a girls golf season, so we have some kids doing that as well. Boys golf is in the spring.
Okay.
And then, of course, elementary girls basketball is kicked off and going too. And then I think there were 3 games last night. We had the junior high JV football last night where we played Lemon. And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit.
Yep.
But we also had the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade elementary girls up here playing here. So it was a busy night last night. And then other than that, just talked about the online form sign up and things like that. So, and I believe we're sitting pretty good. I don't even know if it's worth, we're sitting pretty good as far as numbers for people that have signed the handbooks and things like that. You're on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're talking about like handbooks as far as the computer user agreement and all that, actually that's something I kind of want to mention. So we did a little bit differently this year, and we gave students time in class to read through those and to get those signed. And by far, this is the most successful year we've seen with those. Yeah. There's just very few that are left that need to be signed, and those are very important to do. That allows you to use our computers at the school, as well as field trips and all that stuff, especially if you're K through 6.
Yep.
And if you're looking for that, on our school website underneath forms, parent and student, you'll see something that says all-in-one form, or your student handbooks. All you need to do is click on that and make sure you get that filled out. But my goodness, it's been a great year, and that's appreciated on the technology director side as well. So yeah.
Well, and just one thing, you can go in there and you can fill out the form and never open up the document.
Yes.
I would advise not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. Albeit the handbooks don't change a lot, but it's always a good reminder for yourself to go through. What are the expectations, depending on what side of the building your student is in? What's the grading procedures, right? What kind of what's the dress code? What's cell phone use policies?
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. There's specific things that the elementary does that we don't, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
So you really need to make sure you understand that, because if we find ourselves in a situation where I got to make a phone call home, well, I didn't know that. Well, hey, you guys signed the book.
You agreed to
signed
it.
the form. So
Yep.
we're expecting that you have looked through there and understand how those policies and procedures are expected to work. So
Absolutely. Yeah. But no, that's been very, very successful and done really well this year. Committee reports, that's the last thing in miscellaneous business. Finance committee, any notes from that?
No, not really. Like I said, we're moving forward. The next school board meeting, I believe is September 18th, 5:30. We're going to do the budget hearing, and then at 6 o'clock we'll move into the normal school board meeting. So again, no big surprises there. Not to beat this to death, but we do have to change a little bit on like our textbook budget that we were anticipating. And really, that's kind of the only one where due to the cost of things, we weren't expecting it to be that way. But otherwise, everything else should remain the same on what we were looking at. Of course, salaries, we know 2 years worth of that because we're on a 2-year negotiations.
Yes.
So those things, they change, but we know what the change is going to be. And then, of course, revenue, some of that always changes a little bit too, to where there's an anticipated revenue, but of course that can change if enrollment changes throughout the year.
Of course.
Or if other things change throughout the year. We're coming up on another legislative year, so it'll be interesting to see what the state does with this stuff. And of course the property tax measures out there, and depending on what happens with that could really
have a dynamic cause and effect.
Yeah, I'm sitting here. I'm thinking, what can I say on this?
Yep.
I like what you said. It could have a very, what'd you say?
Dynamic cause and effect.
Cause and effect. Very nice. Yeah, very dynamic.
Okay.
So make sure you educate yourself on that before you go to the booth. But yeah, that was kind of it there. Like I said, the transportation committee met. We talked about those buses. We did make some changes with a bus route. And added a couple miles onto the reader route, but other than that, yeah.
Okay. Well, that kind of finishes up miscellaneous business. We're in the last section here, which is new business. Let's start with the 2024-2025 staff handbook.
Yeah. So again, that's just a procedural thing where we go through. We always go through the elementary handbook and approve it. We go through the junior high school student handbook and approve it, and then we go through the staff handbook and approve it. Now, with this staff handbook, it is predominantly for contracted teachers. So we recognize that, and this year we're going to spend some time working on a handbook for our hourly staff. That way there's clear-cut understanding, again, of what is the district expecting, what do you get for benefits, right? What are the procedures maybe for putting in for vacation day? And we know those things, but it's always been by sitting down face to face, right?
Yeah.
We need to have the document that actually has it. So that way when people, if we're not able to sit down face to face,
there's something.
Well, there's something there. Or exactly, if you're interested in the job, hey, check it out. Take a peek. This will have some more answers for you too. Because when you're sitting talking, there's always things you forget to mention.
Well, how can you remember it all?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay. So then after that, strategic plan.
Yeah, so strategic plan, and I think we'll mention it here, but we do have a strategic plan. It's all done and taken care of. I think in the near future here, maybe we'll do a podcast just on the strategic plan.
Yes.
Because it was a very interesting process. It was a fun process. Mother Nature didn't help us in the process.
No.
But we'll get into that maybe more in a future podcast. But ultimately, this strategic
what is
plan,
a strategic plan?
Yeah, ultimately, the strategic plan helps give us some focus, right? It helps pick out some particular things we're trying to really focus on over the next 5 years. It doesn't mean these are the only things we're doing, right? We're still doing our foundational practices. We're still doing the things that schools are supposed to do. But these are initiatives that we have picked to track data on to see if we're meeting the goals that we set out to do. You know, so, and I'll kind of leave that there as a teaser.
That's a very, very lightly detailed version of what it does. And it's a very powerful document that really, would you agree, makes decision processes simpler?
It does.
Aligns with what people here in this building care about. So there's just a lot of good things we can talk about.
Yeah, totally. It impacts financial decisions, right? When you're sitting there and you got an A and B, well, if A has nothing to do with the strategic plan, but B has a lot to do with it, well, B should be chosen, right? Exactly. So financial, it has staffing implications. So yeah, and it helped us. It helped me a lot when we were looking at the budget, making some decisions and saying, well, you know what? That's not tied to the strategic plan. It's not tied to a foundational practice that we're doing. This is tied to a strategic plan.
So that's where we go.
So that's the way we're going to go.
Yep. That's wonderful. Yeah. So you can stay tuned to that on Hawk Talk. We're going to get into a much deeper conversation to learn all about it and all those pieces. So next thing, 2024, 2025 budget and underneath new business.
Yep. So again, just we're going through that process to finalize the budget. The budget hearing again is September 18th at 5:30. I do believe, I got my thing in the mail. Yep. That of the projected property taxes, right? Yep. You got yours? Yep. So you saw in there, all the entities that have that property tax thing in there. So as you could see, the schools did not go up a whole lot. Yeah. So I'll kind of leave it at that as far as that letter we got. Yep. So ultimately, that's where we are with the budget.
Okay. And then last two elements, Mcintosh wrestling and then open enrollments.
You bet. So the Mcintosh wrestling thing, so that came before we were asked by Mcintosh to take a look at if there was any interest in doing a co-op with their wrestling program. Ultimately, a lot of investigating took place where we took a look at the logistics, the possible implications that it may have for Hettinger in our current wrestling co-ops and agreements that we have. Yeah. And long story short, by the time we got done doing all that, the recommendation came out of our Hettinger co-op committee, right? Because they're the ones that are looking at all the athletic stuff. That out of the Hettinger co-op committee, the recommendation to the board was to not do a co-op with Mcintosh for wrestling, and then that did pass unanimously at the board level to not go into a co-op with Mcintosh for wrestling.
Okay. So, all right. Yeah. And then last thing, open enrollments.
Yeah. So open enrollments, and those can come in for a lot of different reasons. Typically, you think of March when you think of open enrollments, but with families moving across school district lines, you can have an open enrollment form come in at any time, and there's times where our board has to make take action, and there's times where it's just informational. So it was just one of those processes where we looked at some open enrollment forms. So
okay, yeah. So before we leave, there's something behind you and I that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So ultimately, are you gonna do a kind of a separate thing after this?
Yeah. So as you talk about it, I'll show some up close footage so they can get a better shot of it.
Yeah. There it is. It's back, baby.
Yeah, we'll give you a closer shot,
back, baby. We'll get this back.
So what is it?
So that is the traveling trophy for the Battle of the Borders between Lemon football and Hettinger Scranton football.
Cool.
So that is a traveling trophy that was made by Mr. Lewick and his class back in. Oh man, what's the first date on that? On that? Is it 15 or something like that? Yep, 2015. And we'll show some pictures later. It's pretty cool. I'm absolutely ecstatic the fact that our JV got to play for this last night. It was a varsity competition for a long, long time. Anyone that's from Hettinger or Lemon knows that that's a rivalry that goes way, way back. Yep. and at times it's probably more than what even our Bowman Bulldog rivalry was. But
And I remember that one. I used to be a Bowman Bulldog, and oh boy,
easy.
things got fired up.
Easy.
You guys got the last one.
Amen, baby.
Yep.
But anyway, so the last varsity time we played them, Lemon, they won. So that trophy's been down there for quite a few years because we haven't played them on the varsity level for a long time, and a lot of that's because of what we've had to do with the reorganization of regions and stuff, and the ability to actually fit another game into the schedule.
Of course,
it just hasn't worked. So this year, again, after talking with Mr. Kohler, it's like, hey, we gotta get this going again. I said, I understand it's at the JV level, and we can put a little asterisk on the brass, right, with the score and all that. So that maybe in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, we're able to play them again at the varsity level. But it's like these are two towns that work together well.
Oh yeah.
Everybody knows everybody to a degree, but it's a nice friendly rivalry. To kind of add some jazz and kind of get the towns jacked up again a little bit. So we did it, man. They brought over the trophy. So the JV last night played for the trophy, and Hettinger Scranton Nighthawks came away victorious. I wasn't able to stay for the whole game. We had our junior high game, and junior high beat Lemon too. And I took off at about halftime of the JV game, and it ended up being a nail biter.
Yes.
And the Nighthawk boys came through, and there she sits, baby. She's back in our trophy cabinet.
Awesome.
So
you were showing something cool.
She's back home again.
Oh yeah. I know you were showing something cool about that too, and I'll show it in the video as I'm talking about it right now. But there's like a coin in there. It's like a wood coin, and that's what they use to flip too. If I'm correct.
Yep. That's what they use to flip, and it's got some really neat designs on it, and some things that Mr. Lewick and his kids were able to do with the laser engraver and stuff that they had up there. So
very cool.
Yeah. So it's awesome. It's neat to have. And again, it's nice to have it back in our trophy cabinet again.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, Darren, thank you so much for coming in and giving us the update on the school board and what's going on with the meetings and all that stuff. Our next meeting is happening on September 18th, 2024, 6 p.m. And that is it for this podcast. Thank you very much, Darren, for coming in. And if you enjoy this podcast, you can listen to Hawk Talk wherever you listen to your podcast, whether it be YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. You can just subscribe or follow us, and you can get the next new episode. And have a great